I don't know how to give access to record the screen.
Yeah, that would have been a cool little feature.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a button for it. It just
yeah. I mean, it's recording right now. I just don't know how to give you guys access to do it. Maybe now that I'm doing it, it gives you guys access to do it. I don't know. No, Thomas, don't hack my computer. All right. Well, the video, when it's done recording at the end of it, I will find a way to upload it for you guys somehow.
start a YouTube channel.
I have a YouTube channel. There's not much interesting on it, but might just have to get out there. This is secretly, I'm at the dojo so that I can take advantage of these situations and build my subscriber base. So if you just smash that like button, right? All right. So my name is a character field. Max length equals, I don't know. Viruses have long names, so we'll do 100. Gestation period. Models dot integer field for how many days it takes to grow and infect or whatever. Discovered is going to be a date field, and then I'll go created at equals models dot date time field auto now add equals true, and updated at equals models dot date time field auto now equals true. All right. So we have our model set up, right? And this is great for, you know, saying we need this to be a character field. This should be an integer field, a date field. But outside of giving us a horrible error screen, right, this doesn't actually help us all that much. Thomas, you've taken the belt, so you need to cut it out. Oh, I will make that incubation period instead of gestation period. I don't know. Incubation period. All right. So let me.
Gestation period is just for a xenomorph.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll just change this to xenomorph.
That's great.
All right. So we're going to use another kind of built-in functionality of Django called managers. So what we're going to do is we're going to create one. So I'll say class virus manager, and it is going to be models.manager. And we'll be able to create methods in here that will essentially run the validation function. So we're going to be building our, you know, the methods that control whether or not something gets created. We're going to be building these from scratch. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is anything that has a manager that's going to be, you know, determining anything really for these objects. We're going to have another fields in our actual class called objects, and it's going to be our manager, right? Whatever we put up here needs to be down here. And what this is going to do is, you know, in our code, when we say, you know, viruses.objects.create, right? Objects is still going to maintain the built-in functionalities, but when we make a method here, and I'm just going to call it virus validate. Not manager. Right. Okay. This method has no argument. Oh.
Is this virus manager like a one-to-many or many-to-many?
It is neither. It is not any kind of database relationship. So this thing that we're making right here doesn't actually go into the database or anything. Doing like if you set up your models and you make your migrations and everything, and I'll actually do this to demonstrate that. I will make my migrations and migrate right now. So Python manage.py make migrations. Python manage.py migrate. Cool. So now if I don't have DB browser downloaded. I should get that. I'll get it after. Oh wait, no, there it is. So many things hiding. All right. So if I open my databases, I go to documents, dojo, instruction, Python, Django, March 20, valid demo, DB SQLite 3. You'll see I have my viruses. It has, name, incubation period, discovered, created at, updated at, right? So now I don't need to run validations or anything again after doing this stuff because this doesn't actually carry over into the database itself. So let's talk about the kinds of things that we might want to validate, right? So we have a text field, we have a number field, and we have a discovered, a date thing. So let's focus on these two for the most part for now, and then I'll do a tiny little thing here as a little bit of bonus stuff. So what kind of validations might we want for something like a character field, right? Probably some kind of text, like some character count. If somebody tries to put a blank field in, that's not good. That you can't have a virus with no name. And there's probably also not a two-letter virus name. Let's go with three things, like three characters, right? So here's the way that we're going to start our actual validator is we're going to make an errors dictionary. And this is what we're going to use to kind of put in all of the things that we find wrong. We're going to stick it into this dictionary and return it. And then the other thing that we're going to need is post data as an argument of this function, right? We have self because this is a method of a class, so we have to have self. And then this post data is going to be our request.post. So the functionality that we're going to go for is submit a form, take that form in the post route, send it back to this validator, run the validations, and then return whatever errors are found, and then do something with that. So we do need to have two arguments here. One is self and one is post data. Cool. So we set our errors dictionary. It's going to start as empty because when we first run our validator, we haven't actually done anything yet, so it has to be empty to start. So let's start with validation for minimum 3 characters in length. And it's actually surprisingly simple for this kind of stuff. So I just want to know if the length of post data name. And so this here, the keys that I'm going to be using here are going to be the same things that I'm going to set up in the HTML. So this is the same, if in your views.py you're saying request.post virus name, that's what it has to be in here. It would have to be virus name. So let me just do, nope. Okay.
So we're doing a program today that's looking for errors.
Yeah, so we're going to be building validations in so that, you know, have you gone onto a website and you try and log in or register and it says you have to create a better password?
Oh, right. That's what you said.
Yeah, it's that kind of
Right.
thing that we're going to be doing. So
Okay.
if the, you know, if the length of the name that somebody's trying to submit is, I don't know, let's say less than 3 characters, right? We should have at least 3 characters long. Then we want to create an errors entry for name and say whatever. So the message that we put in here, this message is going to show up for the user on an invalid submission. So we want this to be whatever is going to pop up on their screen if they put the wrong thing. So we want it to be, you know, as kind of as concise and, you know, as informative as it can be. So I'll say virus name must be at least 3 characters in length, right? So the virus name should be at least 3 characters in length.
Oh,
And
hold
here,
on.
Oh.
Somebody
Yeah.
accidentally started sharing on
Okay.
top of you.
Okay. Everything good now?
Oh, you got to reshare your screen.
Oh. Okay.
All right, there we go.
Let's see. Can I disable participants annotations? You guys can no longer do things. Okay. I think that's all I can do. All right, cool. Okay. So I have, if the length of the name that's submitted is less than 3 characters, then I want to say virus name must be at least 3 characters in length, right? And I have this max length of 100, but I probably want to have something that prevents it from trying to be put in the database. So I'll say else if the length of post data name is greater than 100. No, I didn't want to do that. Let me put a thing here. Validation for making the name be fewer than 101 characters in length. So if the post data, if the name that's submitted is greater than 100 characters long, I'll make an entry saying errors name equals virus name cannot exceed 100 characters in length. Cool. All right. So these are the validations for this name, right? It'll make sure that the name is the right number of characters. So let's go with incubation period, right? Let's be real here. If we start dealing with a time-traveling virus, we can switch things up. But the incubation period should be greater than 0, right? The virus isn't going to instantly incubate, and it's also not going to take negative time. So I'll say validation for...
Cody, I have a question.
Yes.
Say if I have more than one message to send back to the user, like it met some criteria, but there is something else they did wrong, you know, like they didn't give characters, they gave something else in the name.
Okay.
And I want to say 2 or 3 messages. Can we append something onto this error's name?
Yeah. So I could say name characters or name length or something like that.
Okay, but not on the same thing. Okay, so we send different.
So we could do name length, and then if there was another thing that was like if post data name equals corona, I can say something like errors name taken, right, equals that already exists or something like that, right? Obviously something like this specifically, actually, so we can do something like this. We can make it, I'll show you guys how to make duplicate prevention. So before I move on to the amount of time, so I'll put a validation for uniqueness, right? Let's make sure that there's not multiple viruses in our database with the same name. So I could say viruses equals viruses dot objects dot filter name equals post data name, right? So take the name that was sent through and get the list of viruses with that same name. If the length of that results is greater than 0, right? So filter by default will return a list with whatever results match that query in there, right? So if that list comes back and that list's length is greater than 0, that means we already have an entry in our database with that name. So I'll say if the length of the results is greater than 0, then errors name taken equals, virus with that name already exists. So we can have this change all the time, and I'll show you on the front end some ways that you can some stuff that you can do to utilize these different tags. Okay, so this will make it so that if there's already a virus in my database with the same name that is being submitted, then say no. Cool.
Cody, I have a question.
Yes.
So the name length and the name taken next to errors,
Yeah.
That variable, I thought it has to match off your form.
The one inside of post data does.
Okay. So we can make whatever variable we want next to the errors.
Right.
And then we can call that variable like later. If we want
Yes,
to.
exactly.
Okay.
And I'll show you how you can take advantage of the different error codes that you put in here when we get to displaying them in the front end. Okay. So I have my validations for, character length. I have my validation for uniqueness in the database. Let's go with validation for an actual incubation period.
Yes, create the virus. Take over the
So if post data incubation is less than 0, or less than or equal to 0, because there's no virus that happens instantly, or I don't know. For the sake of this, we're going to say it has to be at least 1, right? So if it's less than 1 day, then errors, incubation time, I'll say, virus must incubate for minimum 1 day, right? So we want to make it so that there's like an actual amount of time, and say, if somebody puts in negative 25 days, like you get infected and you died a week ago, like it's not a thing. So we can add kind of control to what is actually going to go into our database. And then, because this should just be a number. So we just want to know if the number is less than 1, then we say there's an error. All right, and now this one's going to be a little bit tougher. I'm going to actually have to do a little bit of research on this one. So validation.
The errors, they're all just variable names, right?
Right. And then, so the names that we put in here, I'll hop back to here when I start going into front end stuff, which is going to be in like, I don't know, 5-10 minutes, something like that. So you're going to see where these are going to come into play. But yeah. So the one inside of errors is just whatever you want it to be. All right. So validation for making sure discovered date is in the past, because if I'm going and I'm putting a new virus in here, I can't say that it was discovered next week, because again, we're not time travelers. So ideally, any field that I have where I'm putting in a date is going to be an input with a type of date, which will automatically convert it to a date time. So what I can say is if post data discovered is greater than date time dot now, and I'll have to say at the very top, from date time import date time. And this is going to import date time object functionalities so that we can actually use and compare dates and stuff. So I can say if post data discovered is greater than datetime.now, as in if the date that's being put in is after the actual current date, then I'll say errors time traveler, stop messing with the space-time continuum.
So dot now is like a built-in?
Yes, this dot now is part of this date time. There's also a datetime dot today. But yeah,
Gotcha.
cool. So this will check that the date that was put in the form is not after the current date because it's not possible. And I'll actually say, no, I'll do datetime dot now. Okay, so these are the validations that I have. And then what I want to do is, so all of these things, errors, name length, name taken, incubation time, time traveler, all of these things are just being put in as key value pairs inside of this dictionary. So all I want to do is return errors. All right. So now let's go into our front end and get this kind of set up. So I'm going to make my templates folder. I'm going to make an add virus.html.
What's the part you're returning? Is that the class name is errors?
No. So at the very beginning of the validator,
right.
I just created an empty dictionary called errors. And
Oh,
as
it's a
I find,
dictionary.
yeah, so as I find actual errors in the submitted data, then I say, okay, I want to create an entry in my errors dictionary for this thing with this value, this key, this value, this key, this
Okay.
value, right?
Okay.
All right. So let's come in here and I'll say, let me get Bootstrap so that this looks pretty. Get Bootstrap.
So when you're creating those entries into the dictionary, how does it know to put that into the dictionary? Didn't you have to have errors dot or something?
That's what this was. So if you say errors
Oh, you
square
do have
bracket
that.
thing equals, yeah, it creates a key value pair with that.
Gotcha.
Cool. So I'm importing Bootstrap just so that I can make things look pretty. Container, row, whoa, no. All right, so I'll make an H1. I'll say, welcome to the CDC. Please add a new virus. So I'll have that, and then I'll say, let's see.
Martin, you keep putting it in the chat. Speak up.
Huh?
Martin keeps asking questions in the chat. Could we consider that dictionary to be an error log?
So to an extent it is, yes. And so I will show you guys how to actually get those things out and show them on the page. But yeah, so that's going to be like a log of all the errors that come through for that whatever was submitted. And then we'll be able to take that and throw it up onto the screen for the user to be able to see. So let me add a new virus. Let's see, column small 6. Make a form. Action is going to be / create virus. Method equals post. All right, so now I need to use these names, right? So I'm going to have form group row label for name equals column small 4. So virus name input type text, name equals name, equals column small a. Let me see. Python manage.py server. Let's make sure that everything looks nice. It is showing up, and then my server is actually running. Cool. Localhost 8000. Oh, I didn't actually link everything up properly. So let me do that. And here I have valid-app.urls. Okay, so in my views.py, index takes a request, and then I'll say return render request. What do I call it? Add virus.html, right? All right, and then in this urls.py path, the basic thing should be views.index. So now, server restarted. Oh, I didn't import views in here. So from dot import views. All right. Server up
Are
and
you-
running again. Yes.
Are you creating what the route that lets the user input be posted to the page?
I have not done that yet, but I will do
Oh,
that in a
okay.
sec. I just wanted to make sure that the form was actually showing up properly and everything.
Oh, okay, that's something I was fuzzy on, was the post method to get things to render on the page. So I'm curious to see when you do that.
Okay, so yeah, we'll handle that. So we have add virus. So we've got our form group for that. For incubation, right? I think is what I called it. Yeah, just incubation. So incubation, name is incubation, type equals number. Let me make it a little bit smaller. Is this good? Or is this too small? Or should I go one bigger?
Seems fine to me since we can all see it on our computer screens. I don't know why
Cool. All
it
right.
needs to be really big.
All right, awesome. Then I can actually see everything that I'm doing, which makes things a lot better. All right, so I have this label for incubation. It's a number for incubation. And then I'll change this. Nope, I should change this to incubation period. And this one should be discovery date. And then this will be, let's see, what did I have it as? Just discovered. So this will be for discovered. Nope. Date, name equals discovered. All right. And then one last one, form, group, row, input, let's see, column small 3, input, submit, column small 4, value equals create virus. All right. Class is that, and then btn primary. All right. Now, boom, welcome to the CDC. Please add a new virus. Virus name, incubation period, month, day, year, right? So I can do the whole thing. So let's get the rest of this set up. So obviously I'm saying that I have this action for actually creating the virus. So let's get that handled. And I'll say path create virus goes to views.create underscore virus. So then obviously that doesn't exist yet. So we need to come in here and say def create underscore virus, because that's what I called it. Takes a request. Now, if I'm actually creating something in my database, this is a post request, which means never render on a post. So I'm bringing in redirect, right? So this is where our actual validators are going to come in, right? So I need to import my models. So from .models import all. This will bring in the actual class itself, and by extension, the virus manager. So we'll be able to just snap into our validations. So I'll say errors equals viruses.objects.virusValidate request.post, right? So whatever the user types into these things and clicks submit, it's going to package that data up, send it in here as a request.post, and I'm just going to take that whole thing, the whole form that was submitted, and send it through to this virus validator, right? And then just for now, I'll say console.log errors, and then return redirect to the base route. So let's give this a test. I need to run my server. If I come over here, refresh. All right, let's add coronavirus or COVID-19 incubation period. Let's say 7 days. I think it was, I don't know. Let's just say sometime around then, right? So if I click create virus, oh, there it is again.
Hey.
Does just without fail.
I wanted to
CSRF.
remind you, but I wanted to see if you would remember.
Nope, never remember. I'll never remember it. I will literally never remember. And it's okay because I know the error message. I know exactly what it means. And I could just easily fix it. COVID-19, 7 days. What?
Hmm.
If post data incubation is less than 1. Less than not supported between, okay. So what this is saying is that post data incubation, even though it's coming from an input type equals number, it's casting it as a string automatically. So if I just say if int, nope, not that one. This one. If I just take this whole thing, wrap it in parentheses, and say int. It'll take whatever submitted, convert it into a number, and we'll be all hunky-dory. So, all right, give me 1 second. My dog is not so subtly letting me know she needs water. Give me 1 second.
Let's take over the classroom while the teacher's gone.
All right,
Well, he
so,
wouldn't have done that wrong.
Huh?
Dang.
What?
We were gonna take
What?
over the classroom while you
Nope,
were gone, but
no
you weren't
mutinies.
gone long enough.
Mutinies are not allowed. And no, it wasn't as unsubtle as boof boof, but she was just stomping in her bowl and looking at me in the eye. She was like, excuse me. All right, so let's try this again. COVID-19, incubation period 7 days. Enter, what?
I don't think there's a. Is there 30?
Oh, is there not a November 31st?
Yeah, I don't know about that.
All right. Okay.
Hmm.
Between string and datetime. All right. So now is the part where we say convert string to datetime. Stirp time. Oh, fuck off. I'm just going to read right through it. Just going to read right through it.
Delete it.
I don't even need to. It just lets me see it. It's like, oh no, there's a slight shadow over the text. Not like I have dark mode on literally everything. All right, datetime.striptime, date string and format. So here's what I'll do first. I'll say print datetime.now so we can see what that format is. So if I come back here, click refresh. Okay, so year, month, day. So what I could say is submitted date equals date time dot strp time, which is string parse time. So it'll parse a string that is formatted as a date time and convert it into a date time object. So this will be post data discovered, and then the format that I want it to be changed into, which is going to be %y dash %m dash %d. I think that should work. So if submitted date. So it's H. What? No. Let's run the server again. Go back. So COVID-19, 7 days. Name console is not, oh, console log errors. Ah, I'm not in JavaScript. Wow, I can't believe I did that. All right, but that means that the validation went through and we're all happy, so I can see that there are no errors in what I just submitted. Errors is this empty dictionary, right? I initialized it as an empty dictionary up here. It went through the whole process and said, nope, it's not less than 3 characters and it's not greater than 100 characters. The number that was submitted is in fact greater than 0. There's no other object in the database. The number that you submitted is in fact greater than 0. And it was the date that was submitted is not in the future. But let's make it wrong.
Hold on, I think
This-
Tash had a question.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I did have a question. I didn't want to derail or distract, but I was wondering if you can go through at some point the route from starting with your HTML, how it gets posted, and going through views and which one connects to which.
Okay.
And then also I was a little fuzzy on the manager concept.
Okay. All right. So let's go to, let's see. All right. So let me fix this up a little bit, and then we'll follow the whole process through.
Okay.
So this error that I got, invalid literal for int with base 10 blank, right? I submitted a blank everything, which means that it doesn't like that I gave invalid things. So what I want to do is, specifically for this one, the first thing that it did was it realized that there was no number that was put in, and if I try and convert nothing into a number, it's like, no. So what I'll do is I'll say if the length of post data incubation is less than 1, I'm gonna just say checking to make that the incubation submitted isn't blank. So if the length of that is less than 1, errors incubation time is going to say you must enter an incubation period. And then I'll change this to elif. So it'll check this first. Otherwise, it'll do this so that it doesn't break here. Now, I'm going to come across the same exact thing here. So what I'll do is say, I'm going to take this and just put that here. And then I can say if the length of post data, action, no, yeah, I'll do that. If the length of post data discovered is less than, oh God, it's, I'm gonna, I'm going to teach you guys about try except. So I'm going to put try in here. And then say except errors discovered. Up at you. All right, so let's talk about what try except is. Try except, whatever code I have, whatever block of code I have after try and before except, it's going to try and run it. If at any point in these lines of code an error is thrown, it is going to just say, you know what? Something's wrong. We're going to hop over into the except. And in the except, that's what will happen if there's ever an error in here. So I'm going to show you guys what this is going to do if I don't have it.
So it's like a debugging tool?
Not exactly. It gives you the option, the ability to kind of mass catch things. So you can build your validations for the case that you know is most likely, but have kind of a catch-all for everything else just in case to avoid other things. And I do want you guys to be really careful with this. I had a student that used try except during her belt exam. And so the whole thing, oops, let's see. The whole thing relies on this function, this block of code working in the right circumstances, which is checking to see that the date time that was submitted is not in the future. But if the try except is built to say if the thing that was submitted is not even a date time for some reason, like you can't possibly make the comparison, then handle it. But you need to make sure that if a date time is submitted, if a date is submitted, that it will be able to handle the actual comparison. So I had a student that did something like this. Post data discovered, but this here is discovered, right? So the error that should be thrown is a multi-value dictionary key error, which I think for the most part, you guys at this point can handle, right? Multi-value dictionary key error. It means that this does not match what's in your request.post. And that's that.
Do you recommend not using try yet until we're like 100% super comfortable?
That's what I'm trying to get across. But I do want to show it to you so that if you can, pick it up and run with it, by all means, go ahead and do it. So let me comment this out and show you. But anyway, so she came to me in tears during her belt exam, and it literally was an issue of she had a typo in here that if she didn't have the try except, she would have been able to catch the error immediately because she knew what a multi-value dictionary key error was at that point. But she couldn't do that because the multi-value dictionary key error that was thrown got caught in the try except and went straight to here, and it just said something went wrong, and she couldn't figure out how to do it. Thomas, you weren't in tears. You figured it out in like 5 minutes. Go away.
Also, Hunter said your if and elif look exactly the same.
This one? They're very, very similar. This is length. This is int. This one is saying if because automatically the thing that gets submitted from the form is going to be cast to a string for some reason. So this is going to check to see if the length of that string is less than 1. If it's not less than 1, then we're going to try and convert it into a number and check that the number is not less than 1. So this is checking to make sure that the incubation submitted isn't blank. This is validation for an actual numerical and incubation period longer than 0 days.
Also, Hunter is now ashamed.
It's okay. It's easy to miss. I mean, they do look exactly the same other than 3 characters. So, cool.
Why am I calling out everybody's messages? Y'all
No, please do this. I appreciate this. All right, so let's go show you what happens in bad times now. My server is in fact still running. If I click this, it says time data does not match format that, right? I didn't actually submit a date in here.
It was around this time.
And so it's like, I don't know how to make this comparison. You didn't actually give me anything. But if I change this to be a try accept, we'll see that if I restart my server, it'll just come back here. And if I go here, it says name length, virus name must be at least 3 characters in length. Incubation time, you must enter an incubation period. Discovered, stop at you. Which means that entering a blank date threw an error when it tried to do this. So it jumped out of here and hopped into here. And it said stop at you. So realistically, try accept is really useful, but for the purposes of these, if you're going to use it, try and limit it to your date time stuff, because that's the one that will give you the biggest headaches. But I challenge you in the future to keep learning them and playing with them. Let me just put a warning. Be very careful when using try accepts. Spoiler alert, I will be giving you guys this stuff too. It's one of the reasons I'm doing all these comments. But anyway, so I've proven in here that it'll log my errors in this dictionary, right? But I need to actually do something with them. So what I'm gonna do on the learning platform, let's see, where is it? In Django RM. Oh, maybe it's full stack Django. Yes, adding validations. In full stack Django, adding validations, this line right here. So in my views.py, I need to say from django.contrib import messages. So a word of warning, do not ever make your Django class be called messages with a lowercase m. Avoid it at all costs, because messages is the name of the built-in functionality into Django that we import that lets us use flash messaging to actually display errors on the page. What
is .contrib?
I think there's like a section of functionalities in that Django uses that is contributed by the just kind of programming community. So there's like Django.shortcuts, and the shortcuts include render and redirect. There's a contrib section of Django, and messages is built into there.
Okay.
So if I create a class called messages, will it throw an error, or will it just?
I think it'll just get really confused and not work right.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it'll ever actually throw an error. So it's just, I very much do not recommend using this as a name for anything. No variables or anything. Messages with a lowercase m, keep this reserved for just this. All right. So I know that the validations work because it gives me my errors, but I need to actually do something, right? I want to loop through these and create these flash messages for those things. So what I'm going to say is for item in errors, or for error in errors dot items. So this is going, what? Okay. This is going to make that dictionary. Actually, no, not for error, for key value. So this is going to make it so that I can iterate through this entire dictionary as key value pairs. And what I'm going to do, oh, hey, Dakota. Dakota, if you want to, if there are messages in chat, okay, so I guess, so a couple things. One, Dakota has joined. He is in chat. His username is TA_Dakota. If you have questions, just put them in chat and he will do his best to answer your questions if I don't catch it. But also I do, if you have a question, don't hesitate to unmute yourself and just interrupt me and ask. I do want to be able to answer all of your questions as you have them. So whichever method you're most comfortable with, do, but ask away if you have questions.
Otherwise, I will call it out.
Yeah, somebody will call it out. Anyway, so I want to loop through each key value pair in that errors dictionary, right? I want to be able to loop through all of these things that we're making. You know, this key with this value, this key with this value, this key with this value, this key with this value. Whatever is in there, I want to be able to loop through it and do something with it. So the syntax for actually generating the flash messages that are going to go onto the HTML is messages.error. And then there's a couple things that need to be put in. One of them is request. The other is the message that we want to send, right? What is the message that needs to show up on the page? In here, or in my models, right? What do you think is the message that should be shown on the page? The key or the value in the key value pair?
Value.
Right, the value. So in here, we're literally going to say request value. And it will go through each key value pair and put each message in this messages thing. Ignore this little yellow squiggly guy for now. I'll get back to this as a little bit of an extra thing. But yeah, so I have this for key value and errors.items, right? But I only want this to happen if this errors comes back with anything in it. So what I'm going to say is if the length of errors is greater than 0. So if we run our virus validation and it comes through and there are any key value pairs in that dictionary, then I want to do this. So if the length of errors is greater than 0, go through the dictionary and create error messages for each key value pair, and then return redirect to the base route.
So this whole thing is just for like your viruses, like loops and all that, right?
Yeah, it's for taking the form submission and making sure that it's right? Because if the length of errors is greater than 0, we want it to loop through and actually get a log of things and then redirect back here, because we don't want to put this in the dictionary if the fields are invalid, right? Or in the database, not the dictionary. In the data, we don't want to add an invalid thing into our database, because then we have a database full of garbage, and we don't want a database full of garbage. So if the length of the errors dictionary comes back greater than 0, then toss all those error messages into this thing, and then we hop back out. And Dennis, why do we need a key in our loop? I will show you in a second what that key can be used for. Yes.
After the messages dot error, is that a built-in?
Yes.
Okay.
This dot error is built into the messages library that we are importing through Django contrib. Okay, so if the dictionary of errors that comes back from our custom built validator has things inside of it, we want to loop through and put those messages in to show up on the page. Else, what do we want to do? If there's no errors, we probably want to take the information that was submitted and create an entry in our database, right? Yes. So then what we'll do is we'll say viruses dot objects dot create name equals request dot post name, right? Because we want to take this field and set it as this in our database, and then it should be, let's see, where is it? incubation period equals request.post
Incubation.
incubation, and discovered should be request.post discovered. So
What were
discovered.
we trying to do with all this?
So the whole goal of this, right, is we're building this application where a user can log into this CDC website and create a new virus, right? But if they just click create virus without putting anything in, do we want to create an empty entry in our database?
No.
We don't. We also don't want them to say, you know, L, right? That's probably a typo. They probably didn't mean to just put one thing.
Right.
Or if they put negative 10 days, you can't have the virus incubate for negative 10 days. And the virus also can't be discovered, you know, 5 months from now or anything like that. Right? So we want to have some kind of control over what can be put into our database. And that control that we've decided we want is built into this virus validate that we made. So we're checking this to make sure that the length of the name that was submitted is at least 3 characters and that it's not longer than 100 characters. We want to make sure that they're not trying to create a virus that's already in our database. So this is checking the name and making sure that you can't have another virus with the same name. This is making sure that A, they don't leave the incubation time field blank, and B, that the number that they give is a positive number. And then this is making sure that the discover date is not in the future, because you can't discover something tomorrow. I mean, you can discover something tomorrow, but you won't know until later. Yes, Song, this will be on GitHub.
Are key and value built-ins, or how does it know?
No, this can be anything. This can be slipper. This can be shoe. And then it's just, if you have for, you know, X comma Y, X will be the key, Y will be the value in a key value pair. But again, you know, they're key value pairs. I'm going to use key and value because that's just what kind of makes sense. Okay, so last step is going to be how do we actually get things to show up? And I will show you the simple, easy way, which is going to be...
Will this be like an essential piece for our belt exam?
Yes, 100%. So I'm going to create a row here, and I'm going to say this row is only going to show up if messages. So this is going to say, make this thing show up only if this thing has stuff in it, right? So if messages, I want to loop through them and print them out. So I'll make an unordered list and say for...
what are the messages?
So these are in our validator. We made key value pairs of these errors, right? Where there's a name and this is our key and this is our value. And the value is what we're taking and putting as an error message. So this is going to be all of the things that is wrong with the information that was submitted.
That's something we're sending to print to the screen?
Right.
The message
right. So
lets us do that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So I want to say if messages, then make this thing here. It's going to have an unordered list. And for each message in messages, I want to print the message.
Okay.
So if I come here and I make sure that everything is good to go.
Are these messages something that are automatically generated, or we choose what they say?
We choose what they say here.
Oh, okay.
Whatever we put here,
the
we have our
values.
key and our value. Whatever we put as our value, those are going to be the error messages.
Okay.
Okay, so let's make some invalid stuff. If I refresh this page, if I do this, virus name must be at least 3 characters in length. You must enter an incubation period. Stop it, you. COVID-19. It was discovered, I don't know, November 25th, 2019. Incubation period 7 days, right? I'm going to create the COVID virus. And I got no error messages, right? Because that was all valid stuff. Now, one of the validations that I built in was prevent duplicates. So if I try and make another COVID-19 because I didn't, I don't know, I didn't communicate with somebody else, and I try and, put a thing, virus with that name already exists. So a couple things to note. Whatever is put, whenever you do something like this and it creates these error messages, they will last until they are shown up on a screen. So if I mess up a whole bunch, let's see. Let's bring in an HTTP response. HTTP response. All right, so if I submit a bunch of invalid stuff, SpaghettiOs.
That's funny.
It still shows up here, right?
So I'm trying to like piece this together. This is all if like things are like all invalid and bring up error messages and all that.
Right, because all of these three fields I left blank. And I built in validation stuff in here to say that field should be at least 3 characters. If it's blank, it's not at least 3 characters. The length of the incubation period, right? The text entry of it, right? So that can't be left blank. So if it's blank, that's wrong. And then this is basically handling if the date time that was put in is left empty. But I can do things like this, where this is valid and this is valid, but this is not valid. So when I click create virus, it takes me here and it doesn't show me any errors, but if I come back, it's still waiting to be rendered. And it'll say virus must incubate for a minimum of 1 day because I put -1 here, right?
Oh, that's something you programmed it to say?
Yeah.
Okay, right.
Oops.
Hey Cody. So if you go to your views real quick.
Mm-hmm.
So for the assignment that we're supposed to do, we're supposed to add validations to our TV shows.
Yes.
We don't, since we already have functions that are adding shows and editing shows,
Mhm.
we don't need to delete those because in our new function that we'll make, like the create virus,
Mm-hmm.
the else statement will add it to our database as long as everything goes through. Won't we
Exactly.
Have like we won't have a duplicate creation in our database because we have an else statement that creates and then we already have a function that creates. Am I making sense?
Well, yeah. So the assignment that you're talking about, the TV shows, right? You're not like creating a whole new view that's going to do this. You're just going to add this chunk of code into the already existing method. So all the stuff that's already in your database is already in your database. This is just, these validations are built to prevent wrong data essentially from being put into your database. Does that make sense?
Basically, yeah. So basically, our like add show function, all we're doing is adding an if statement and then adding an else.
Exactly.
Where the create is already at.
Exactly.
Okay.
Right. Cool. So let's see. So I'm going to say return redirect to here. But let's say I make it so that if this whole thing works, then I don't just want to go back to the same thing. I want to go to a place that's actually going to show me everything. So let's make another thing called allviruses.html. And then we'll make a list of a table of things. So we got here. Copy that whole thing. So I'll make a container, row, H1 all viruses registered with the CDC, and then this class equals text left, and then I'll make an A tag. Class equals text right. Actually, that won't do anything. Column small 6, text left. And then column small 6, text right. I'll make this say back there to add a virus.
Your last column, small 6, is as small as MS.
Thank you. All right. And then I'll make a thing here, and this is going to say H2 all. Nope, I already have that. So this is going to be my table equals table t head, and then I'll say th, and then say ID. This is going to be the virus ID. What the hell happened there? Virus ID, virus name, patient period, discovered, and t-body, and then we'll say for let's set up this route. So this is going to be a thing called path all viruses use dot show all, and then in here we'll create that show all function. So def show underscore all request, and then all we're going to have is context equals, and then we'll say viruses is going to be viruses dot objects dot all return render request all viruses.html with context in there. All right.
What does the context do? I forgot.
This is information that we want to send from our backend to our front end. So
Oh,
I
yeah.
have a dictionary viruses is going to be all of the viruses, and I want to be able to use that in here. So I'm going to say
Shouldn't it be
for virus.
virus.objects at all?
No, because I have my class named viruses. Normally
you
I
do.
would have it. It's just by the time I realized that I had already made the migrations and everything. So
Gotcha.
rolling with the punches. So for virus and viruses, what do I want to do? I want to have a table row for each of these. So tr with a td that's going to have virus.id, virus.name, virus dot incubation days.
Need one more curly bracket for virus ID.
Thank you. I'll get that in a sec. Discovered. And then I think I have it incubation period. Incubation underscore period. Okay. Discovered name incubation period.
So these
Okay.
things that you're writing right now grab from your models?
Well, yeah, because the list of stuff that's being put into context, that
Oh.
list, everything is an instance of this class.
Okay.
So let me get rid of that guy. All right. So, and then in my add virus, I will have a column small 6 left, column small 6 text right, a tag goes to slash what did I call it? All viruses. So all viruses, list of existing diseases. All right, so let's go ahead, run my server. pull this up. Cool. Welcome to the CDC list of existing diseases. If I come here, all viruses registered with the CDC. ID of 1, name is COVID-19, incubation 7 days, discovered November 25th, 2019. So now we can come back here. Let's add another virus. What other virus do we have? Influenza. Incubation period. I don't know, 7 days. It was discovered next year. Nope. Stop messing with the space-time continuum. Fine. Influenza. It gestates or incubates for -3 days, and it was discovered like, I don't know, that long ago. Virus must incubate for at least 1 day. Influenza. 7 days.
Pretty sure it's faster if you just type it in, Cody.
Listen. It was discovered a long time ago, okay? All right.
Cody, you can try Ebola.
Is there a way to make it to where your virus name incubation period stays even though you got an error?
I can theoretically, yes. If I wanted to do that, I would have to do something like this and say, if this whole thing, then I'm going to say, request.session name, invalid name equals request.post name. I'd essentially have to go take everything, put it into session just to show it on this page. But yeah, so I can do that. But that's the kind of thing that gets a lot easier when you're using a front-end framework. But if you really want to do that, utilize session is the hint that I'm going to give. Okay. So but now if I go to list of existing diseases, we have COVID-19, we have influenza. Let me change this guy in here rather than redirecting back here, go to /show viruses. So on a successful thing, it'll go show all the viruses, but on an error, it'll just come back here. So if I do this, it says stop it. I might have to restart my server. It says no. Let's do Ebola, incubation period, I don't know, 3 days. It hits hard and fast. Sure. We'll do that. Oh. What? Oh, /all viruses. Okay. Let's try it again. Stomach. Cool. So now on a successful submission, it automatically comes here. But if there's a problem with anything, then it just kind of stays here and shows the errors.
Hold on, how did you fix the Ebola issue? Oh, is it because you had to put all viruses?
Oh yeah. So the problem that it ran into was specifically on this line. So it had already created the whole thing in the database, and then the error came from trying to redirect to a route that didn't exist. So all I had to do was change it here, and then it was fine. But yeah, so we have the stomach virus, incubation is 6 days, and it was discovered not that long ago. It's a lie. Cool.
I think I might have that last one. I'm pretty sure I have a stomach.
Oh, you have one of these, but do you have one of these?
No, just number 4.
Okay, just number 4, just the stomach. I think we all have one of those. Wasn't discovered too long ago.
Who'd I get mine from?
I don't know. It just kind of showed up one day. Okay, so questions on this so far before I go into a little bit of extra stuff in terms of you know, I know there were some questions on why key value when we're just using the value. Any questions on validations in general? And a reminder, this video is going to be uploaded, I don't know, somewhere. And I will be uploading this project to GitHub for you guys.
Hey, Cody, can you repeat again on models?
What part?
Yeah, can you explain again this section?
This was like the whole thing. You want me to go through this whole thing again?
That's
okay,
really,
so
but
let me
for the errors,
let me walk through the flow of information, and I think that'll probably or hopefully kind of clarify some things.
Do that.
All right. So we're currently on this page, right? We have, or no, this page. We have, no, wait, it is this one. Yeah, okay. Oh, I just hit it. No, not that one. This one. Okay. So I have my form, right?
Yep.
And it has an input with a name of name, incubation, discovered. That's these things, right? So when if I don't do anything, I click create virus. Now, when I click submit, because that's the submit button, right? That's this button. When I click this, it packages everything in here, sends it to this route, create virus. So we go and we look in here. This means any routes, send it into this file, validapp.urls. So this is validapp.urls, and we're going to look for this route, right?
Okay.
Which one of these matches that route?
The one that does.
What is the route?
Create.
So which one of these? Which line?
Oh, the first.
The second one.
This one right here, create virus, right? So what function do we want to run? We want to run the create virus where? In which file?
In views.
Right. So in views, we run this function. So we're going to say errors equals viruses.objects.virusValidate request.post. So we take request.post, which has all of the things that were submitted built into it, and we send it to our virus validate function in here. So we take post data. Post data is request.post. So I look and I say, if the length of what was submitted in here, right? If this thing was submitted and that field is less than 3 characters, we're going to put an entry in our errors dictionary with a key of name length and a value of virus name must be at least 3 characters in length. If this was 105 characters, it would trigger this one, which is if the length of that name is greater than 100, then we enter a key value pair in that dictionary. Was there a question that was?
Where did post data link up to, or is that a built-in thing?
No, so this is because I know that this is supposed to be the data from my request.post. So I'm calling it post data.
Okay.
When we say virus validate request.post, if you remember when we're dealing with classes, our methods always automatically have self. So I don't need to worry about this one.
Validate.
I just know that it takes post data. If there's
Hey,
something
Cody,
that
I
needs to
have a
be in
question.
there. Yes.
I see.
Like in the place of various name, if someone tap like a number there's no any control message for like say, hey, this is the number only. You need to have like some letter.
I didn't build anything in for that. You can, but I didn't. I would guide you towards Python, check data type. So there's stuff that you can check the type of something. if you want to go that far. I'm not going to be checking that harshly when it comes to your validations, at least not for these kinds of things. But okay, so the next section on the platform after just adding validations is pattern validation. It shows you specifically how to handle matching the pattern of an email address using what's called regex, which stands for regular expression. For the purposes of the email check, you're literally just going to like copy and paste these 3 lines. But you can use regex to handle just specific types of things. I left it open because, you know, there are viruses that have names that are like 2 letters and then a bunch of numbers. And building out something like this for that would take up like the majority of this demo, which so it's not quite as important, but you absolutely can do it. This is one of those instances where I say, I challenge you to figure out how to do that.
Question for
yes.
you, Cody. Do we always want our if else our if validation checks on our function before the function does something? So like, for example, the edit button on our shows, do we want that to be above the request when the user's submitting information, right?
You mean like before actually taking the data and changing it in the database kind of thing?
Yeah, you want your validation always before that, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Right, because otherwise you're going to make the changes and then be like, oops, that's wrong, but you already made the changes in the database. And then
like, also, when it comes to the belt exam, do you care, like, are you mostly looking for functionality, or do you also want it to look decent?
So my key concern is functionality. But if you bring me a fully functional belt exam that's completely done in like an hour and it looks like dog shit, then I'm going to be like, go clean it up. So it's like, again, my key focus is functionality. How it looks is second. But if you like finish super quickly, I do expect it to at the very least look, you know, something like this, where it's not like the prettiest thing in the world, but it's organized and, you know, it's clean kind of thing. Don't have it all just be like all of the input fields on the same line kind of thing.
Now, really quick, you had said that they were pushing the belt exam back a few days.
We are considering it because of, you know, we went from we're in person, psych, now we're all gone kind of thing. So like, I'm not going to force you to take the belt exam Friday if you feel like you're not ready. I mean, I wouldn't have done that anyway. I still strongly encourage you to try and get through the rest of this week and be ready to take the exam by Friday, because the fact of the matter is the project week is still, it's still happening and it's still really important. But I wouldn't like super panic. Like, we'll find a way to get you your 3 takes in next week. At the very worst, we have a dead week afterwards, so I can administer a couple of belt exams during that week, but like, I will only do that if I see that you are working and attending and trying and asking me questions and stuff like that. Like, I'm not just gonna let you do it if I don't think that you have been putting in the effort to try and be ready by Friday.
Right.
Can we still use next week to theoretically be catching up on assignments and then take the test?
Yes.
Try not to. You
try not to. Yeah. I really encourage you to try, at the very latest, be ready to take the exam on Monday, at the very latest. Okay. Because project week is still really important, and it's still important to try and get that done. Yes, there's a dead week, so you could theoretically like have your own little mini project week. but that's dead week. I won't be working that week, so I won't be able to like help you with things at all. So I really, really, really advise you to try and keep the regular schedule as much as you possibly can.
Okay, I forgot. Are projects like required?
You are required to complete one or two. I don't remember. It's one of
I
the
think
two.
it was
I
two
think it was two.
projects.
Yeah, I think it's two projects.
Also,
During your okay.
Cody, is this
Yes.
the last thing we're learning before the belt exam, or is there a new thing? Is there still some stuff later in the week that we're learning?
So
will
this
be
is
on
the
the
last like topic that's being covered, but I will still have, I'll find some way, maybe send out a Google Doc to you guys that you guys can like fill out, and if you have breakout sessions that you want us to do. Dakota and I are going to be, here. So even though we're not like on campus, we're still working the whole day basically. So we'll still be doing like afternoon breakout sessions. Once everything is all settled and ready to go with the walkabout thing, I have my own office. You guys have your own desks, so you can pop into my office and ask me questions. I can hop over to all your desks and see what you're working on. You guys can all hang out in your own at your own desks and work with each other and stuff like that. So it's going to be as it's going to be very much regular schedule, as much as humanly possible, just remote. But yeah, so this is the last lecture topic that's being covered before the belt exam.
Can you give us like your name on YouTube channel?
Yeah, when I get it uploaded, I will send you guys out the link to the video. Any other questions?
Is there a reference for getting set up with the walkabout? I sort of missed some of that stuff.
I believe.
You should have just gotten an email. I got an email like 10 minutes ago.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
they sent it out. Okay.
Yeah, they may have just sent it out. So check there.
Oh, I see it.
All right, cool. So that should be there to get you guys going. After this lecture, I'm going to go grab lunch and stuff. But then I will say we should. We'll meet back in this Zoom room at 2:00. To just go over everything with walkabouts and get you guys all set up and ready to go. If you are in walkabouts and everything, or if you have questions, I'm here in Zoom. I'm on walkabouts. I'm on Mattermost. You have my email. So there's like a bajillion ways that you can ask me questions. So please do that. But if there are no other questions for now, and Dennis, you said key. I don't know what that means.
I think he had a question earlier about what the key was for.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me get that. So this key can be used for, so personally, I don't like this where it's just three things here. I like it when it's separated based on each thing. The key comes into play when we're talking about that. I can add another thing in here that says extra underscore tags equals key. So it'll take whatever is in here and set it as that extra tag. So what I can do, and it looks hideous. It's going to look really gross, but rather than have it be all down here in one nice, neat little thing, I can do this. If messages for message in messages, if message dot extra tags equals name length, danger message, if and for and if, and then take this whole thing, put it in each one of these, change the extra tags from name length to incubation time, take this whole thing, move it down here, and change this tag from incubation time to time traveler. And then I'll change this guy to, or I'll just change this to discovered. Discovered. Change this to discovered. All right, and then I have one other one here, which is name taken. So I will say, take this whole thing, put it above. Taken. Yes, yikes indeed. All right, so now if I come here, if I click this, now it's like set on each thing. And then I'd probably want to do, column small 12. Again, it's gross, but it will do what I wanted, which is, okay, I don't know why it's not doing this, but yeah, so now I have it set by each thing, right? The date, it's telling me the date problem. The incubation period, it's showing me the incubation period error. Here, it's showing me that. And if I say COVID-19,
Oh, cool.
then at the very top, it'll say virus with this name already exists, right? So you can, that key part can be used as an extra tag to be more targeted and specific. But it does take some extra setup for that. So that's just a little extra fun thing.
It looks so professional.
Yeah, and that's the whole goal is making it user friendly rather than having to scroll down at the bottom and try and relate each thing to each individual one. I think it's just easier if the error message kind of shows up automatically. So cool. Right. Any other questions? Cool. All right. In that case, keep an eye out on your email. I will send out the GitHub repo. I'll also post a link in this chat. Go grab some lunch.
Does this
yes.
Does this one you just made relate really closely to a specific assignment that we're on?
Yes, the assignment that is this for the end of day today, which is semi-restful TV shows validated. The semi-restful TV shows assignment was just a full CRUD application, and the assignment after, which is semi-restful TV shows validated, is the same exact assignment. So you're going to use the same code base. You're just going to add validations to it.
Okay.
Cool. Any other questions before we break for lunch? Cool. Keep an eye out on your email. It'll be in this chat too. I will send the GitHub repo with the code that I wrote. And I will do my best to, by the end of day, get the YouTube video uploaded. I have no idea how long it's going to take. It's a pretty long video. Let me stop recording it now so that it